Oh, hello there. I didn't notice you as I was reading my book. So, Mass Effect Revelations. Or Revelation, I suppose. What is there to say about this book? Well, firstly, it is a book. Secondly, it is based on the Mass Effect franchise, which is one of my favourite game franchises, so as I loved all three games. Yes, I know the third game's ending was controversial, put it that way. I still love all three games. I feel like, I don't know, it's just, I love the story in the games. The story is amazing. I love the fact you can do all the dialogue things with Shepard. You can effectively create your own character more so than probably any other game. You can make your character really good, really bad, in the middle, whatever. But what about Revelation? What is this? And this is obviously going to be a bit different. Firstly, it's a book. And it's also not one of those books where you turn to different pages and you choose your own adventure type things. Which, would have been interesting if they'd have went that route, but they didn't. They came out with this, which is effectively just a novel. It's a good novel though, and I'll tell you why. Now, firstly, it's a prequel, which, because this isn't Star Wars, is a good thing. It takes place 35 years, roughly, before the events in the first game. Or at least the sort of first chapter or two sort of take place really in the past, and then sort of like the main story takes place in 2148. And yes, I did just look at the book. Deal with it. The actual story, of course, is based on the background of the character Captain Anderson from the first game. Captain Anderson, of course, who was sort of like your mentor, I guess, in the first game. He was sort of like the guy you sort of looked up to, and he sort of like was this big historical, legendary historic character in the Alliance. He'd done so much. However, he had done something really stupid in the past. He'd made a big mistake. Now, essentially, what happens is, and I'm going to try not spoil too much about the book because it really is a good book. It honestly is. Essentially, the story is mainly from, now it's a point of view type book, which means there's different chapters have different point of view characters, if you know what I mean. Like, one chapter can be from Anderson's point of view, a different chapter can be from a different character, like Sarnes, for example, who was the main villain from the first game, who plays quite an important role in this book as well. He's sort of like the villain, but he's not really. There's another character that I would call the villain of this book, more than Saren. And there's other characters as well who switch between the POVs of each chapter, and even in between chapters as well. But the main character is essentially Anderson, and it sort of follows on from, like, he's just back from this mission. He was rescuing a base. There was a human colony called Sidon. There was a human colony on Sidon, which is a planet in space, in the games at least, which was sort of like experimenting on, what was it again? It was experimenting on ESO technology, I'm pretty sure. The stuff that makes biotics. They were experimenting in that, and it was sort of like against the Galactic Interspecies Council, which is sort of like the main government in Mass Effect, like, of all the different races. You have like the Turians, the Asari, the Solarians, and later in the games the humans as well, because they become more and more significant in intergalactic politics and whatever else, especially after everything that they do in the first game. Not spoiling anything, just saying they're quite significant, obviously. But essentially, humanity at this point in time is only just beginning to get into. They're only just beginning to reach the stars. They've only just gotten into the intergalactic community. Like, they're sort of like kind of new to things, and they're quite powerful, but obviously not as powerful as the council races. However, they're becoming more and more powerful, faster than anyone else. Obviously, by the time you get to the first Mass Effect game, they're like the fourth most powerful race in the galaxy by that point. But in this one, of course, they're still trying to figure things out, because there was just they just had a war with the Turians, the First Contact War, which didn't that's pretty much the reason why Saren hates humanity. And it didn't really end too well. Like, what kind of did, like, humanity kind of, obviously they discovered alien life forms and became part of the new intergalactic space community with all the other races. The Turians, however, felt a bit hard done by because they didn't really do too much bad, but they still had to pay a lot of reparations for humanity. So there's sort of like an animosity between them, which still kind of exists up until the first game. Not so much the later games of the franchise, but definitely the first game. So essentially, humanity, like, they have this research centre where they're like experimenting with ESO, which is the sort of like resource that's found in space that creates biotics. So it does. So it's very, very useful. So humanity wants to learn more about this to gain an upper edge against the other races. However, one of the scientists goes mad because reasons, I'm not going to ruin it, but I'll say one thing, it does tie really well into the actual game. It does tie really well into the games. The reason why he goes mad, and you'll understand if you've played the games. This scientist goes mad, ends up betraying the whole base, and shit goes down. Everyone in the base essentially dies, except one person, who is this sort of like, who's assistant scientist, called Khaleesi Sanders, and she's the daughter of this of the admiral that sort of like was Anderson's old admiral, whatever. So there's sort of like a connection there, and he sort of appears later in the book as well. So she sort of escapes, and she's sort of like getting hunted down because she's the only known survivor from this incident. And there's this guy, this Batarian, who I would consider him the main villain of the book. I can't really pronounce his name properly. It's a weird Batarian name. He's like this Batarian sort of like evil businessman type guy who wants to sort of making money, let's be honest. So he tries to go after Sanders, try and capture her or kill her, and he sends an assassin after her, this Krogan assassin who's just mental. And there's this really, really good chapter in the book where the assassin, Anderson, and Saren have like this epic fight, and it's probably one of the best bits of the book. So it's one of the best moments in the book. Yeah, he sends the Krogan after her, and Anderson's sent to go and rescue her and bring her back to the Citadel, or back to to safety and whatever else, so they can find out what happened at the incident. And of course, the more and more, or the deeper and deeper Anderson gets into things, the shittier and shittier his situation becomes, because everyone's after him. He's got the Krogan, he's got, I'm pretty sure the Batarian guy hired mercenaries as well. They're all going after him, and shit kicks off. And there's also Saren as well. Saren, he's a bit of a dick, in all honesty. But obviously, there's a part later in the books which sort of like references, explains what I was talking about in the first game, when Anderson tells Commander Shepard why he never became a Spectre. And it sort of like happens, it does happen, and I'm not going to spoil too much about it, but when you see what happens, you can understand why he does it, and you can understand, how Saren managed to manipulate the situation in his favour. And I really like how Saren was portrayed in the book. I mean, all the characters, like Anderson was portrayed really well. He's a very military character. He's very straight-minded, whatever else. There's also it mentions he had early in the book, he's sort of like going through a divorce with his ex-wife, and you can kind of see he's really pissed off about it. Like, he's really angry at the start of the book, and mainly because of that and other things. And I'd say Anderson's portrayed pretty damn well. Saren, again, he's a complete dick, and I really like how he is sort of portrayed in this book as the sort of like secondary type villain, where he's still, he's not really out to kill you, but he really doesn't give it if you die type thing. in regards to Anderson. So yeah, I really thought they were both portrayed really well. The other characters were all pretty decent. I thought Sandra's was pretty good. At the start, she was sort of like trying to evade the mercenaries and whatever else, the police as well, because she'd broken the law essentially. She was trying to get away from it, and I thought that was really well. And the relationship she had with her father, who was this retired admiral guy, who had sort of like given up by this point and was just a wreck by the time he appeared in the book. And I thought the scenes with them were great. The scenes with the Admiral and Anderson were great as well. The Batarian guy was portrayed quite good as well. He's sort of like this Bond villain type guy, you know. He's sort of like hiring everyone else to go after the good guys. I thought he worked really well as well. Another thing I really liked with him and the assassin, the Krogan assassin, I can't remember his name. I probably should have looked it up for this, shouldn't have. But one of the things I really liked were the negotiation scenes he has. Like, I think there's a few he has with the assassin, and it's like really tense because both of them really want to get as much out of the situation for themselves as possible, and you can tell they're like negotiating, haggling like hell, so they are, and it's really good in all honesty. So yeah, all the characters portrayed pretty well. The story itself is really good in all honesty. In regards to it being a prequel novel, it sort of follows up into the actual games pretty good, but the actual story itself is really good. I enjoyed it, and I loved the big revelation title of the book. Yes, there is actually a revelation. It doesn't happen till right at the end, but see when it happens, it was really good. Honestly, it was brilliant, and it related big time into the first game in regards to the Reapers. That's all I'm saying. If you want to know anything more about this, buy the book or get it from a library, read it yourself. I really highly recommend this book, especially if you're a fan of the franchise. If you've played any of the games and you love the story, buy this. It's even written by the same guy who did the story from the games. Same guy who essentially does the story for the games anyway. And it's a really good novel on its own. So yeah, I would give it overall an 8.5 out of 10. It is really good. The only real negatives are it does get a little bit slow at times, like it does kind of drag the story, because not a lot happens. There's some scenes that really do. So there's some moments in the book where there's a lot happening, and then there's bit times where just time's passing by, you know, something. So yeah, that, and another thing I didn't really like was when the writer changed the point of views of different characters halfway through a chapter. I found that a bit confusing. But other than that, yeah, I thought it was really good read. I enjoyed it, and yeah, if you're a fan of the franchise, buy it, definitely. Even if you aren't, if you're looking for a good read, I'd still recommend it because it's a good book. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video.